Are you somebody that struggles with low back pain or low back stiffness and you're wondering what an office visit in a chiropractic office would be like? If so, this video is going to be great for you. Hey, I'm Dr. Putney with Wellington Family Chiropractic, and today I'm going to walk you through just a routine office visit for a patient with low back pain. And so when it comes to chiropractic, when it comes to routine low back pain, chiropractic does a great job loosening up the joints that have gotten restricted or stiff over time. And then in our office, we do a lot of muscle work coupled with the right corrective exercises to get good long-term change in that area. But for the sake of today's videos, I'm going to keep it simple and just kind of walk you through what a visit would look like. Obviously, with a patient, outside of a video, we're going to be a little bit more lengthy with our history and our examination. For today's video, a lot of that's already been covered with Jacob, and we know he has some low back stiffness when he's lifting weights. So I'm going to give you a couple different views of what we do in terms of how we palpate or feel those joints down there, and then give you an example of an adjustment. So there's different ways we can look at the low back. One way is we actually do it seated, and what we use in our office is what's called motion palpation. That just means to feel by moving the joints. So it's not like these big shifts and misalignments are there. A lot of times it's just some areas have gotten locked up or stiff. So for him, I can grab his shoulders here, lean him way back into me, and go in through his low back and just spring those joints, moving around the sacrum and the pelvis. I can move up into the lumbar spine and give that a good little nudge there. And you can feel typically where some of those restrictions of range of motions are, and usually it's worse on one side than the other. For him, his low back's much stiffer on the right. So we can feel that there. Now I'm going to have him go face down. Now there's other ways that we can do this here. So we can just do the same thing, kind of working through the SI joint, moving up into the low back or the lumbar spine, pushing some weight through there. And now again on this scan, I feel the same thing that I did when he was seated. Another way we can do this is just prop yourself up on your elbows. We can get that loaded up into a little bit more extension and press a little firmer. And again, this just kind of further confirms that we've got some tension down in the L5 SI joint area along the right side. So for this, a lot of times, another thing we'll check is we go through and just quickly check for what we call resting muscle tone. In other words, when these muscles are at rest, what does the tone feel like? And if you have an area that's giving you issues throughout the day, a lot of times what we'll feel is an increase in that resting muscle tone. So the muscles will feel shortened or drawn up and tense on one side and more relaxed on the other. So if we feel that, a lot of times in our office, we'll do a series of stretches prior to the adjustment. For him, I would just be working some of the lumbar erector muscles. And so this table's nice because we can really dig in to those big muscles of the low back and take those areas through different ranges of motion. And we're just trying to get some of that tension broken up in there and get that area to relax. And usually this is really well tolerated. Even if the person's in a lot of pain, we can get in there and do a lot of good work because it's pretty easy on the patient themselves. This table goes at angles, it goes up and down. So depending on what kind of stretching we want to do for them, we can do it with this type of table. So we typically do this for a few minutes. We might do some other stretching as well. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to lock this back up and just have Jacob lay on his left side. And he'll face the wall there. Yep. So the way we adjust the low back in our office is we just set the person up in what's called a sideline position. We get the shoulders comfortable, arms crossed. Now we don't typically, or I don't do a big twisting motion. What I'm looking to restore is that range of motion in the direction where we could feel that it was gone. So for him, it's really this forward moving of the lumbar spine in that lower area. We're into extension, he feels restricted. So I'll just scoop that area with the palm of my hand. I'm going to roll them clear underneath me, take it to a point where it stops, and then I'm going to drop weight straight through. And it looks something like this. Good. And so we get a big release typically. Let's have you go face down again. Sometimes, depending on what we feel, we may do it both directions. It really just depends on what we're finding and then what we feel afterwards. But for him, You can feel the majority of that has cleaned up. And he's got a little bit just a touch higher, so I'll have him face this way. Good. So again, I'm just going to contact higher. I'm going to roll underneath me, hold, lock him out, and just adjust that way, and that should clear it the rest of the way out. So I have to go face down one more time. Yeah, and now we can go through. We can feel those muscles are relaxed. The joints are moving freely. And typically, for a lot of low back pain cases, this does a wonderful job of getting those areas to move and feel much better. From here, we'll probably have some stretches and exercises for Jacob to be doing on his own, or we might do those in office to help further cement what we do on the table and get him feeling better in his low back. So if you or someone you know struggles with low back pain, you're a little worried or you're curious about what those visits look like, this would be a great example of what we can do to really help with your low back pain. So we keep it simple. We go right to the areas that need it, restore that movement, and then always couple that with stretches and exercises to, again, just stabilize that area and make you more resilient to it coming back in the future. So hopefully this video helps, and we'll talk to you soon.